right, fellow babies, welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. We are really hopeful you're watching as a Patreon patron. Thank you if you are. If you can't figure out Patreon, or even if you can, please link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account. We get paid and you have to renew that. So go to the show description if you haven't done it in a while and renew that. And you can also subscribe on YouTube. You're getting it real time if you do any of those three things. It's okay to be Patreon and Twitch Prime. It's okay to be YouTube and Twitch Prime. Don't do Patreon and YouTube. You're paying us twice, and that's stupid. Today's question from Twitter, from @LazilyDiligent. Do you see subscription services like Game Pass changing the interaction between consumers and studios in the same way and scale as services like Spotify have affected the music industry? Music is evergreen. So this really happened. My 21-year-old daughter, born in 2000, knows all the words to American Pie, written in 1971, right? So that song was 29 years old when she was born. It's 50 years old now, and she knows all the words to the song. Now, when I was a kid, going back 50 years is like Al Jolson, or big band, swing bands or whatever. It blows me away that music has that long a life. And, you think about just the concept of classic rock and, forget just the 70s, 80s, 90s. People listen to this stuff every single day, where we don't really have interest in games that are even a year or two old. Some, but you don't want to play Madden 05, like, ever again. And, you might want to play Max Payne 1 and 2, but not maybe. And that's why you get remastered. But the problem with a Game Pass service is that old content just doesn't have the same kind of value as old music content. And the record labels, the reason they participate in things like Spotify is that the disaster of the internet caused upstarts like Napster, Grokster, and Kazaa to allow people to file share and steal music. So when music was first put on CDs, and this is around the early 80s, it didn't occur to anybody in 1983 that every PC on the planet would have a CD read-write drive, and that you could copy a file from a CD and then send it to somebody else on the internet. The internet didn't exist, and PCs didn't have that capability. We used floppy disks, and it just never occurred to anybody that they would have the ability to read and write CDs and share the files. So music, unfortunately, by digitizing, going from albums to CDs to make sure that the recording was pristine and free of hiss and flaws, killed itself, and people started stealing music. And Apple saved the music industry by creating iTunes, charging 99 cents at the time for songs. Read the Steve Jobs book by Walter Isaacson, explains how that whole thing came about, but fascinating. And the record industry did its best to save itself with iTunes, but people stopped buying albums because you didn't need to. What was the point? Somebody would steal the music as soon as it was created. And then these music services came along, and the first one was actually Rhapsody, which, believe it or not, bought the brand Napster and reinvented itself as Napster. Napster started out as a pirate service, turned into the very first music service. I was a Rhapsody subscriber forever, literally from late 90s until 2-3 years ago. And I switched to Spotify. And the reason I switched to Spotify is all the music services, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Spotify, Napster, I'm sure there are 100 others, have the same songs, because every record label is fine putting all their music on that library. And then Spotify pays out a percentage of its revenue for its record library, and it allocates out what it pays based on what we listen to. So if I listen to American Pie and my daughter sings along, Don McLean and his record label get whatever, half a cent or a tenth of a cent. They don't get very much, but they get something. And so Spotify can work by allowing that. What happens with games? Well, I'm not going to play Max Payne 1 or Super Bust-A-Move or some 1990s or early 2000s game. I want to play Grand Theft Auto 5. I want to play Call of Duty, Modern Warfare or Black Ops or, some recent game. And the problem is if Activision gets paid a penny for every hour that I play that game, or even a dollar for every hour I play the game. If I play the game for 15 hours and beat it, they only got $15, where they could have sold it to me for $60. So they're not going to put their new stuff on the service because they have an alternative. They can sell it to me for $60. Where a record label, the recording artist doesn't really have a place to sell his albums. People don't buy albums the way they used to. They still buy them, but not in the numbers they used to. And the Spotifys of the world have the scale and the power to get everything on there. But the fact is, if Beyonce comes out with a new album and I listen to it a lot, she's making a lot of money. And Spotify will pay a big guarantee to get the album day and date, and they might not get it. And so there's some negotiating leverage for the artist. But the fact is that, titles, another one. The fact is that all the subscription services are around the same. And I got to say, I probably went 15 years of subscribing to Rhapsody for $4.99 a month. And when we all went from PC only to mobile phones, I couldn't get it to play on my phone. I never could get it to play on my stereo. I could only play it on my PC. I could barely figure out how to get it to connect my PC to my stereo system. So I paid for it, but I didn't really use it very much. And I bought a Sonos system in 2007. Sonos was the bridge that allowed me to play from my PC to my outdoor speakers and listen on my patio. I hated it. And the reason I switched to Spotify was when my kids started driving. They're 21, so 5 years ago. They wanted Spotify on their phones because none of us could make Rhapsody work on our phones, which was then called Napster. None of us could make it work. And all our cars are all, newer than 2016 and newer, have integrated, your phone works with your stereo. So I switched to Spotify and I pay the family membership. I think I pay $14.99 or $15.99 a month. And I doubt that any more than one of us ever uses it at a time, but I pay for it anyway because we have the ability to. So I went from paying $5.99 or $4.99 a month to $14.99 a month. I increased my spend by $120 a year. I literally don't think I bought more than 10 CDs in the last 15 years. So I went from spending $12 a year to $120 a year. The record industry, the music industry is completely set because they're making more money from me. And I'm probably consuming more music, which is great, but I'm not consuming enough to justify that spend, but it's worth it to me. I have the ability to do it. So to answer your question, the games industry doesn't have the long life value from all these songs. I just found, I forgot the name of the song, but the Bruce Hornsby song, That's Just the Way It Is. I just discovered the Tupac version of that, the cover, and it's not called The Way It Is. It's called Something Changes or whatever. But oh my God, what a freaking amazing song. Now, Tupac, I think, died in 96. So it's at least 25 years old. And I don't know if that was 30 years old, but I discovered it. I'm like, this is the most awesome song I've ever heard on Spotify. So the value of a 25 or 30-year-old song is the same as the value of a brand new, Jay-Z release. But the value of a 25 or 30-year-old game is not. So the game companies won't give up new stuff, and demand from consumers for old stuff isn't as great as it is for music. So I don't think Game Pass or any of these services will ever work in the long run. If anybody is going to have the staying power to pull it off, it's Microsoft, and it's because of their business model. And your question on scale and size, they're already at 18 million Game Pass customers. If they get to 25, then 50, then 100 million, they'll be able to go out and buy more content. And so they might scale, they might get it, but I think the solution is not paying for content. I think the solution is buy Activision, buy EA, buy Take-Two, buy Nintendo, just a roll up where they own all the games all the time, like Arby's has all the meats. They need to own everything all the time. And Microsoft's the one company I could see pulling this off. So I am kind of impressed with Game Pass. but I can't tell you that I think that that's the preferred model for most gamers. The other thing is we consume a lot of music. Like, I play it in my car all the time. Now, I'm the lamest music subscriber you've ever seen. I bought a lifetime subscription to SiriusXM back in 2006. The company was almost bankrupt. They were charging like $6 a month for a car subscription, and I paid something like $500 for a lifetime subscription. And there was just a lawsuit that they lost saying you have unlimited flips. They charge you $75 to change it from car to car, but they actually limit you to three transfers. So eventually you're going to not have lifetime. Anyway, they lost the lawsuit. I just switched it. We just got a brand new 2021 car. I just switched it. So I have free music in my car, Sirius XM, which is awesome. So I don't bother with my phone, but my kids do. So we are Bluetooth connected. I could play Spotify in my car, but I don't because I've got Sirius XM for free. So I'm a big music guy. But I've got Sirius. I played Spotify in my boat every time I'm in there. And my old boat, I had Sirius XM. My new boat, I do not. So I use Spotify. So yeah, Spotify is awesome. I don't think Game Pass will ever get that big, but they might. They're the one. Thanks for joining us on Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. Thank you for your patronage on Patreon. Thank you for remembering to link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account. Thank you for subscribing on YouTube. And thank you for following me on Twitter at Michael Pachter. We'll see you next time.